Alrighty, welcome to what is the first of what I hope will be many little illustration videos that I've figured out how to draw in real time instead of time lapse and will, work out better. Small disclaimer, these videos will not be scripted. These are very unscripted. You will hear me stumble over my words. You will probably hear my upstairs neighbor walk around like they have cement shoes. You'll probably hear my refrigerator turn on and off in my apartment. Bear with me here, folks. I'm not rich and I can't afford, professional studio equipment. But anyway, this is the first story that I did try to post this story on YouTube before, but it was a time lapse 1 minute. I felt like I couldn't I had to rush through the story and explain everything, and I hate doing that. Like I said, I'd rather do things unscripted because it just makes me, I feel like I flow better. Anyway, so this first story, it takes place in 2003 in my home city of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And it happens in a neighborhood called Fishtown. Now, Fishtown in 2003 was a bit of a rough area. It was where you go, if you didn't have your head on a swivel, you were catching some fist. Mostly blue collar, working class folks. There was a drug issue, petty theft issue. It's just south of Kensington, and if you've never heard of Kensington area of Philadelphia, it's nothing to be special about. Anyway, so Fishtown today, now mind you, is the land of hipsters. It's the land of liberals. It's the land of beer snobs. If you go to Fishtown today, you're probably going to go in there and listen to a bunch of trust fund babies complain about capitalism on their $1,500 laptop while drinking a $9 coffee or a $15 beer, dressed like they fell out of a thrift store, despite the fact that they can afford to wear very expensive clothes, but don't because they want to portray themselves as one of the street people. I digress. You couldn't pay me to live in Fishtown. It's a very annoying area. Anyway, so in 2003, there's a place called the Trails. And the Trails is a wooded area down on the Delaware River that no longer is there because gentrification is a thing today. And now it's all just condo buildings of units that are basically a glorified walk-in closet and cost $1 million to live in, and no one lives there. Anyway, two young boys are riding their bikes along the trails. And then they come across a dead body. Very Stand By Me-ish. Very, so they go, oh crap, we gotta tell the police. So the two boys immediately go tell the police. You're like, yo, cuz, there's a dead body down at the trails. So the police and investigators show up at the trails, and what they find is a brutal, brutal scene. They could tell it's a young boy, but they can't tell who it is because his head and face are completely battered. In fact, the only thing left is a left cheekbone. That's the only thing left intact. They also find the murder weapons because the people who did this murder are idiots. They find a bloody hatchet left on the ground not too far away. They find a boulder covered in blood not too far away. There was a claw hammer used in this as well, but I don't think that was left unseen. They decided, we better take this one with us, but leave all the other stuff. Anyway, so how did they discover who this was? Now, the John Doe had a scar on his hand that was in the process of healing, not something you can do when you've been unalived, or if you're no longer amongst the living, your scars are not healing. They'll just be set where they're at. So they decide, let's check the missing persons report, and that actually works out to their benefit because then they discovered a boy has been reported missing not 24 hours ago, and that boy is Jason Sweeney, a teenage young man who is a high school dropout but works construction with dad and has dreams of becoming a Navy SEAL. Now, the cops go and speak to the family, and they go, and as it turns out, the day before, Jason finishes up his work at the construction site, gets paid $500, and he had plans to go hang out with his girlfriend Justina. Justina is a 15-year-old basket case. She's been kicked out of schools. She's been institutionalized. She's very manipulative. She's very just trash. Let's just call her trash. She's a trash person. Now, Justina was dating Jason, but in the background, Justina was also giving special attention to two other boys. One of them being Jason's best friend, Eddie. Eddie and Jason have been best friends since grade school. And at one point recently, at the recent time of this incident, Jason and Eddie kind of drifted apart. Eddie kind of went into the dark forest of becoming a petty little bastard. And Jason figured, I'm going to go and make something of myself. Now, Justina is hanging out with Eddie, but also hanging out with another young boy named Dominic. And Dominic and Eddie are also involved in drugs. So Justina goes to Eddie and Dominic to get some special sugar, let's say, and in payment gives them special attention, let's say. And then the third idiot in this Three Stooges group is Dominic's brother, Nicholas. Now, Eddie, I guess, was always jealous of Jason's focus on becoming something of himself, and Jason never followed the behavioral patterns of he and the other two idiots. So there was several times that Eddie and Dominic wanted to unalive their best bud, and they were trying to make plans, we'll convince them to throw a house party, we'll do it there. But Jason wasn't having it. He's like, I'm not throwing a house party when my parents are out. That's just not going to happen. Then there was a plan to go down the shore. They were going to do it there, but Jason said he didn't want to go. He had work. So at that point, Eddie and Dominic were like, how are we going to accomplish this? And then, boom, in comes trash girl Justina. Now, they're all hanging out in a room, listening to Helter Skelter, doing drugs, because of course they are. They think they're part of the Manson family. And they go, look, we need to come up with a plan. We want to get this done, but we need a plan. So they hire, I guess is a way of saying it, Justina. So here's what the plan was. Jason gets done work on Friday. He gets paid $500. His plan is to go out on a date with his girl Justina. And they're walking around, they're going to get some sodas from the corner store. He's on cloud nine. The dude's got a good job. He's got a bright future ahead of him. He's got a girl that he sees as this, like, she's so cute and sweet, but little does he know. Then this trash girl convinces him, hey, let's go to the trails, and if we go in the trails, I'll give you some special attention. What 16, 17-year-old boy is turning that down to go into the woods and get it on with his girl, right? So Jason's like, okay, let's do this. So she leads him into the trails. They're in the middle of the woods. Jason starts getting, stripping down. But behind them pop out three very familiar faces. Eddie, Dominic, and Nicholas. And he goes, hey, what are you guys doing here? And Eddie, his best bud, allegedly, is the first one to strike. He counts down from 3. He goes 3, 2, 1. And then he swings a hatchet into Jason's head. Right? And then Jason backs up like, yo, what's going on, man? And he's bleeding. And then the brothers jump in, right? and all three of them just start swinging on him. And Eddie's hitting him with a hatchet, Dominic's hitting him with a claw hammer, and then you got Nicholas just throwing rocks at him, and Jason's just being pummeled, right? All while, mind you, trash girl Justina is just kind of hanging out on the side, watching it happen and doing nothing to stop it because she's a part of it. Now, Jason's last moment was looking up at his girl and said, "You set me up." And then, lights out. Now, once Jason is with Jesus, let's just say, they ransack his pockets and steal his $500, and then they split it amongst each other. So it's like what, $1.25 per person? Yeah, that's totally worth offing your best bud for. Then they disturbingly join together in a group hug. All right. I don't know how to. That is just like, really. Are you that proud of yourself? Then they go to a friend's house and get cleaned up, and then they start doing their special sugar, and then do what is quoted as "party beyond redemption." I believe that was Nicholas who made that comment. Now, the police start putting things together, and they find these kids. And during the interview, you had Nicholas or Dominic saying, "I wasn't high. I was as sober as I am right now." Because right now, like, they're just telling on themselves. Like, I think Justina starts, immediately ratting them out. But, yeah, they just start a minute and start talking to it. So, police, like, we got our guys. And, now they go through trial and all that stuff like that. So, here's the end result. The Three Stooges get life in prison. Good. Justina, she gets 17 years. Guess what? She's out. She's walking around right now. And I guess the moral of this story is be careful who you become friends with. You got to be mindful. But that is the story of Jason Sweeney and his murder. Again, guys, I'm going to be doing a lot more of these. Hopefully, we'll see where they go. But other than that, I'll catch you on a new one. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Duces.